Thank you for joining me for 5 More, our new podcast where we take just a little bit more time with the text. Without any further ado, let's jump into it. In chapter 2 of Peter's first letter, the first primary new influence and focus is that Christ is the cornerstone. Everything we ought to live, think, and believe should be based primarily on Jesus Christ, not just what he said, but also who he was. Oftentimes, we want to twist and change Jesus to fit some image that makes him acceptable, palatable. Most times, believers want a Jesus that is inoffensive, one that is looking out for the best interest of others, one that is primarily there to care for their bodies. And really, Jesus never came for their bodies, but for their souls. And if that is not blatantly obvious by his work on the cross, how can you infer anything else from his time here? Christ never healed the sick so that their bodies would be well, but so that they would see and believe the absolute power and authority of the Father. Because Jesus never did anything apart from the Father. He came to point to the Father because he was the Father. And if he was truly the Father, and if we believe that, that means everything he did, everything Jesus Christ, the Savior of your soul, did, was the express will of God. Jesus himself said, "I only say what I hear the Father saying, and I only do what I see the Father doing." Because Jesus was God. Jesus continues to be God. And even in the beginning was the Word, Jesus, and Jesus was God, and Jesus was with God. To interpret Jesus and God as separate things would be foolishness. This is why Peter, in all of his understanding in time walking with Jesus, begins this section with, Jesus is the cornerstone. This is the entry point. This is how we begin to understand the God who is the lover of our souls. This is how we begin to know God. Jesus himself said in response to Philip, "If you know me, how can you ask who my Father is? If you have seen me, you have seen the Father." And Jesus said that because him and the Father are one. This all points to Jesus being God in flesh, the God-man. God coming to earth, fulfilling the entirety of the law, proving that it is possible to walk an entire life righteously, and even more so, pouring out healing, restoring sight to the blind, making the lame walk, raising the dead to life, pouring out the goodness of God to overcome the consequence of the law, which only brings death. And my Jesus came to bring life and life abundant. How are we still struggling with these things? If we do not understand Jesus, the very cornerstone, the most basic entry point into our salvation, the one thing that saves us, the very most human analog to who God is. If we do not understand this cornerstone, how ever are we to be saved? Surely we will spend our entire lives trying to work and earn salvation. Is it any wonder you see in churches throughout this country, in fact, all over the world, the blind leading the blind off cliffs into the ocean, along with the herd of pigs? The reason we fail so spectacularly is because we have no idea who our God is. And the reason we have no idea who our God is because we do not understand Jesus and who he is and why he came, or what he was teaching. We know the verses, we know the words in red, but still, we have no idea who our gracious Savior is. We know the words grace and mercy, but we are far from them ourselves. And so we strive against the cornerstone. Is it any wonder we're being dashed to pieces? Be sure to join me again tomorrow morning right after First Five. I look forward to meeting with you then. God bless you.